In the fall and winter of 2018, farmers in the Grande Ronde Valley were concerned when there was minimal snowfall in the mountains, which typically provides runoff water that goes into the Grande Ronde River. In February of 2019, Mother Nature decided to play catch-up, dumping several feet of snow throughout both the Catherine Creek and the Grande Ronde River drainages. Some elevations approached 150% of normal snowpack.
The interesting thing is the difference in CFS between Catherine Creek and the Grande Ronde River. That's pivotal in the difference between the floods from year to year. And this year, we had a lot of, to answer your question, we had a lot of snow recently before some rain, so it was ready to run into the river. That was different than the deep snow we had a few years ago. Yeah. And as soon as it started raining, the Grande Ronde was ripping.
A surge of water ran down Catherine Creek at the same time the Grande Ronde River surged, sending a huge combined flow into the north end of the valley where it encountered constrictions, both natural and man-made. The water rapidly backed up, forming pools and then lakes.
The north side of Alisel Lane is the first time that I can ever remember that actually went underwater. The south side of Alisel Lane we have lost before. You go upriver on the Jenny White Place, you know, I've had the loss in 2011 was not a severe, probably another 70, 80 acres this year that are actually underwater. And then when you go further up the river to the Morris Place, we actually had more land that we lost. The water stayed there longer, and so it completely killed the crop instead of before. I had some crop that was completely dead and some that was salvageable.
How many acres is that total, or percentage-wise of what you found?
Right at 600 acres.
Wow. So this you rented too up here.
Yes.
So how does that affect the landlord?
Well, it's a cash lease, so he will get his.
So he'll get his money. Yeah. So you're just out that money, as if you were getting a crop.
To be able to get in there and put some kind of forage crop to help get through this year.
Mm-hmm. So you've got percentage-wise how much of your place was?
100%.
100%.
Everything, except for the tractor, the 2 or 3 acres where my house and my barn sit on.
As the water got close to the top of the levees, a sense of urgency began to crescendo. Sandbags were filled, equipment was moved, pumps were ready to intercept seepage, and the nights became sleepless for the farmers. The fight went on for days as the water rose to minimize crop loss. At some point for many growers, there came a realization that it would be impossible to contain the water within its banks. Water relentlessly spread through the fields, finding old channels, finding depressions to fill, and breaking through untested barriers. The second and third waves of snowmelt continued to confirm the realization that the high river levels would continue for weeks. Each farmer had to consider how to proceed given the resources they had, which crops might be salvageable, assuming they could pump off the water in a timely manner. Priority is given to higher value crops and perennial crops, which have a high cost to establish.
There are many crops that take at least 2 years before you can even harvest them, sometimes 3. And so, you know, the farmer's already waited 2 years. He's put a lot of money into that crop, and then maybe this is going to be the year where you can finally harvest it. Now it floods, so there's a third year that you're not going to be able to harvest. So now you're out 3 years' income for that area. So the perennial crops, a lot of times it won't wash them out or kill them, but it's definitely going to hurt because those take a long time to become established and to bring money back. And you know, we're like the grass seed capital. And so, you know, just think about it. People in other countries are using grass seed from Union County. So we have some really nice farmland here, and we need to be thinking about that because that's a huge part of our economy, agriculture.
Okay. We'll spend a great deal of time out in the fields thinking about all of this, what we're going to be raising on this ground for 10 years from now.
And then so if you lose 3 of those years, now you're at an 18 to 20 year.
Well, it's hard to get back into the rotation, especially with bluegrass. I'm not going to be able to put the whole thing back in, and as Phil said, unless we can plant the same variety, we can't go back in with bluegrass it has to be out for 3 years. Fescue 18 months. before you can go back in with a different variety.
Look at
Go
that.
to replace any of those acres this year with grass crop.
Yeah.
You wanna wait until next year, so then you're 3 more years out from realizing any income off those fields.
I haven't heard estimates on how much money was lost in the spring flood, but estimates on how much property was flooded, it was in the tens of thousands. I don't know exactly how many, but there would be one farmer that maybe lost 8,000 to 10,000, and there were several farmers that lost a lot. And so it was huge to our economy and to those specific people this year, and really to all of us. When I think of agriculture, it goes way past the farmer out there. You know, he's buying tractors, he's buying 4-H animals, he's teaching children. You know, there's so much more to it than just that farmer. The damage this year has been probably some of the biggest in maybe over 50 years.
Any disposable income that you may have had, you know, to buy whatever else you wanted that your family needed or just desired to have is all out the window now. You go into a scarcity mode where you just start rat holing every dollar you got, and then you try to figure out how you're going to make $1. And then what's the risk of putting that dollar out there to try and make $1 back when you may not get it back? And so maybe you're just better off just not putting it out there.
Most farmers' arsenals consisted of a few high-volume pumps, pile of pre-filled sandbags, a boat to deliver them, and some strong backs. To make things even worse, rodent tunnels running through the levees are impossible to find until the water level rises. The combination of the newly exposed rodent-caused rivulets over miles of levees result in more seepage than pumps can keep up with.
I do know that volume pump runs 2,200 a minute, and we'd be on like 24 hours, off 8, back on 24, and I figured by the time that we'd done, that we pumped over 100 hours.
So you got 100 hours with electricity, maintenance.
Yeah. But at least, like I said before, in flood, because flooding, especially down here, is bad. We get everything from the south end, bottles, cans, sticks, logs, I mean everything, and it's a heck of a mess, you know, to clean up.
You guys had mint go under right here on the other side of the river. How'd that go?
Well, the field man, he doesn't think there's much of it alive, but some of it's actually up, so I guess we'll find out.
So it could survive. You got the water off pretty quick on it. How long did it take to get the water off?
Well, all of it didn't go under, so we're still pumping off of it.
Yeah.
Off and on.
Yeah, seepage.
Right. And it'll continue because the water's still high.
And there was 2 pumps down there pumping.
Well, we had 3 down there to start with, so we got it pulled off there pretty good to start with, but there's just 1 lift pump down there now.
Finally, after a month, the water levels in the field begin to drop. It requires great patience to allow water from the saturated soil to get to the point where tractors could be used to work the ground in preparation for planting.
Baker County's got about 3 of them. Wallowa County, obviously, up in Wallowa County, they have, you know, the lake. Umatilla, pretty much everywhere but Union County. I mean, we have some small reservoirs, you know, Thief Valley and some of those, but and some of them, like Wolf Creek, are definitely helping the North Powder area as far as storage and handling, you know, late season dry. It also helps the fish. And so really this part of Union County, the upper Grande Ronde, which is the Grande Ronde River and Catherine Creek, is really the only area where we don't have above ground storage of any kind, where we can manage the water.
It's one thing to lose everything you have invested out there in that ground via crops and infrastructure and everything else, but I'm still sitting there underwater for the most part. The areas that typically do flood, that I call my meadowgrass acres, which is about 110 acres, they're still flooded, and I don't understand why. the river has dropped enough, and that's a pretty simple equation. The river comes up, it runs out into the field. When the river drops, it runs back out. But on my way over here, they're still covered. So I don't even know that I'll have that crop. Normally I rely on a little bit of water coming in every year to water that ground for the hay crop. This year, I don't know whether there's even going to be a hay crop.
And then like Armond says, it'll have sticks and limbs and...
Yeah, and by the time you get out there to try and even pick it up,
Right.
whatever grass is exposed, it just turns into a nightmare.
So you're in the same position that Dennis is with it. You're still going to have to make a land payment.
I still got payments.
With no
to make.
income.
Yeah, if I don't make my payment, they take it.
Right.
You know, and it's a tough deal.